apparently interdimensional beings exist. And here is a video from Representative Senator Anna Luna, who went on the Joe Rogan podcast to give an expose on what she believes, and many others, to be true evidence of interdimensional beings on this planet. So let's check it out.
I can also tell you, and this might sound crazy, but based on our investigations and stuff that we've seen, okay, there is definitely something that I think would rival what we know currently with physics, and a tech that potentially is out there that we don't have the ability to reproduce, because it would basically be like dropping a cell phone right off back during the time of maybe caveman. So like we just don't have the tech to develop it yet.
So basically like it's so crazy. It would be like dropping a phone near cavemen. You know, back in the day, if you could like do push-ups, if you could do a crazy amount of push-ups, they'd burn you. You know, if you had any sort of like, they were burning witches back then. You know, they'd Cauldron Bubble you back then. It was crazy. If you could write with two hands, you'd be crucified by tomorrow. You know.
What I can also tell you is, based on our interviews, and this has been something that you can go back and watch with the congressional hearings, but I was actually able to ask some of the witnesses, you know, what are these things? And they keep saying interdimensional. And then when you talk about the interdimensional aspect of, you know, are these things pre-existing, maybe outside of what we currently know as our own dimension? That stuff can kind of all sound crazy, but at the end of the day, you know, my job as an investigator is to receive all the information, decipher it, and then ultimately, from a congressional aspect, if you do have contractors that are withholding information or operating outside of the purview of the federal government, I mean, there's budgetary issues, but there's definitely something that I can tell you with confidence that exists that we don't know how to explain currently.
So when you say that it operates outside our understanding of physics, what specifically are you saying? Like what happened?
To I guess break it down in simple terms is that I think that some of the tech that exists, that whatever these things have, these energy things have.
Energy things? What do you mean?
Well, they call them interdimensional beings. I think that they can actually operate through the time spaces that we currently have. And that's not something that I came up with on my own. That's based on stuff that we've seen. That's based on information that we've been told. And then also, too, I think that there's this historical aspect of, you know, this gets into the deeper theories and concepts of religion. And I think the history that we currently know and that kind of
that stuff. So basically, these beings are able to operate on the space-time continuum. I think I've seen a clip of Joe saying that something like this is fascinating because there's a possibility that maybe we're on some lower plane, and our plane compared to other beings are basically like a harvesting field for them. So we are like on this big planet, and all these beings do is like go to planets to like harvest souls and stuff. And you think like you're doing this, you know, you think you're a scientist or an OF model, but really you're just in some big field getting harvested for your soul or like energy, right? And so I'm assuming that these interdimensional beings would kind of be similar in that same aspect. I don't know truly what they are, what they do, obviously, but I do think that if there was a case, because my whole thing was like, if you're a third dimensional being and you're a fourth dimensional being, then you're possibly an alien, right? Because you're operating from two different planes. But then that would also mean that you're not even alive. You're only just a fourth dimensional being, and your body is just made up of like basically a fake body. It's like your body's not really real. Your body's just kind of this like tether. It's almost like it's like a game, like, you know, like that Stickman game where you can like, it's like a crash dummy type of game, and you can kind of like control the character. So like you control it from the head and the body's just dangling. You're basically like the light captured to the body, and you're just like moving this body around in this box. But you're not actually like the body. You're kind of like the soul of it, right? So I think that's possible. That's possible, right? Now I don't know for sure. I can't say empirically that this is real and tested and verified, but I think what she's coming at is from, actually, we've gotten tests we've gotten studies. Some of these guys are saying they're seeing UAPs and all types of crazy stuff because they had to change the definition of UFO from unidentified flying object to unidentified aerial phenomena. Because I think it kind of just became this remiss of like, well, anything could be a flying object, but unidentified aerial phenomena gives a little bit more of a spectacular definition because it is it's phenomenal, right? So it has to be something extraordinary. Just like her claims, I feel like extraordinary or supernatural things need supernatural evidence. And so I do believe that stuff like this actually can be, because I mean, once you know about physics and stuff, you know that like the body and the astral projections and your actual makeup is just mind, body, and soul. You're not really like only just the body. So, I mean, maybe.
Spins off into another topic of, you have the modern day Bible, you have this aspect of Bibles that, or books of the Bible that have been removed that explain and kind of touch on these topics. And I think that we're in a time and age where you have such a vast amount of information that we have access to via social media, via your cell phone, via the internet. And so it's really changing the way that we understand, the origins of life and the spiritual reality that we know.
When you
currently
say interdimensional beings, that they know that these are interdimensional beings, how do they know that?
Based on testimony would be based on witnesses that have come forward. But what I can tell you
So the
is
witnesses just were told that they were interdimensional?
that they've seen things. And what I can tell you without getting into classified conversations is that there have been incidences that I believe where very credible people have reported that there have been movement outside of time and space.
Outside of time and space. So what does that even mean? Like, so they're in this show Loki. If you guys ever seen Loki, right? So Loki's one of my favorite shows ever. And to not get into too much sauce about Loki, honestly, it's probably like my second favorite show of all time beyond Family Guy, right? Now they stopped at season 2 because, and I understand why they stopped at season 2, because sometimes, it's good to package it off and send it on its way. It lives in its grower. You don't want to do too much, I guess, which is fair. But I'm just saying that is Marvel's best project since Endgame, easily. Regardless, I'm saying this because in the show, you get to certain moments, but what happens is, because of what happens from Endgame when they go back in time, Loki gets the Tesseract, right? He teleports to another area. So because the original Avengers went back in time to a different point in space, then he grabs the Tesseract and he transversed. So they went back in time and interacted with the past. It created a Nexus event, which then the timekeepers of the TVA had to come and get Loki and arrest him because he, made an alternate reality from going back in time and splitting the cause. And I'm saying this because when you get into the series, you'll know a few things about the time and how weird the time works and how dynamic it is. He has something called time slipping and stuff like that, where he can like go to different points in time that he used to be in. Very weird. He can go from forward in time and backwards. But also there's this thing called pruning. And basically it sends you to the end of time. And I always thought, what the fuck would the end of time be like? Because time as a concept, as we know, is past, causality, and future. So where is your causality if you're at the end of it? Aren't you just dead? Is there nothing? Is it just a blank screen, just nothing? So for me, I think that is a very fascinating concept. But what would that even look like if they're saying they're outside of time? Is time itself its own dimension? It only I'm pretty sure, like, from what I've seen or heard, that time itself has its own 3 dimensions. But what would be outside of those dimensions? It's so fascinating to think about what happens outside of those. And honestly, it's honestly like, why even go off a thought experiment? Because you could never even figure it out. I feel like you couldn't even begin to figure it out because of its recollection. You're not even in its hemisphere. You're not even close to, you're not even near it. You can't even like think to know, unless those interdimensional beings can like come back and tell you. But I don't know. It's a very, very fascinating concept. And I've never had an experience like this. And I thought when she said that this was like reported by something, I thought maybe she says they're credible sources, but you know, they could be like military guys, etc. Because when you say witnesses, I think people kind of go off like, are these just like random civilians, like crazy, you know, cuckoo Karens, or like, oh my gosh, I saw a fucking saucer in the sky. But it could be, you know, the military guy. He's on the fighter jet, says, bro, there is this spaceship, and you know, oftentimes I'm checking my guys that are near me, and we're flying at, you know, 600 miles per hour. We're doing our thing. This thing was moving beyond our conception of movement ever at all. Maybe we are existing as a plane of just movement. And these things are tethered from the back end of gravity. So like almost like a piece of paper, right? I could roll a ball on a piece of paper, but if I stuck a piece of pencil in that, I mean, this analogy doesn't really work, but say for great a different analogy is water. If I put a ball across water and I tried to send it across the ocean, it can only go as fast as the waves can push it. It can only excel, right, as fast as I give it the exhaust. But if I just had it on like a stick, the confines of my own propulsion would be a different dimension of like gravity. So like maybe they have like a deeper gravity under, like they may have like a understanding of the sacred geometry of our dimension, have sort of finessed it from the fourth and have used the fifth to exponentially increase their velocity, possibly, right? So like they're outside of space and time, using sacred geometry to enter our dimension from vibrational crystallization, and then they vibrate from our space past or from fifth through fourth to third. And this is why we see different weird things. And you look at this iridescent cloud, you look at this iridescent thing, maybe this being is just poking a hole because it's vibrating its way in. And just like you can say this thing, oh, this thing's cloaked. Well, maybe it can vibrate so fast. Like, you ever seen a fan? It's almost like laminar flow, right? You ever seen a fan go so fast that it's like frozen in place? What if they could vibrate to the point where they vibrate out of visualization? That would be crazy.
That's very vague.
Yeah. So look,
That's got to be some hard stuff to get to the bottom of. But maybe, who knows? You know? And we have an excerpt from some guy here. Maybe he's going to give us a better drop down of our body.
You never die. You have more than one body. You have a physical, etheric, astral, and mental body. Every physical object has an etheric energy double. Etheric body connects the astral body to the physical. The ether is the barrier between the physical and the astral. That's why the word together has ether in it. Together. Bringing the two worlds together. The word either is ether. You're on either side of the ether. In the daytime, you're in the physical. In the nighttime, you're in the astral. You know how you can imagine the layout of your house that you grew up in? That is the astral plane, your imagination. Every physical object in the physical world was pulled out of the astral dimension of the imagination. We think, we imagine, we give energy to it, we take physical action. The physical world is crystallized thought. The astral world is lucidic thought. It's why you can change your dreams if you change your thoughts. Physical plane is just more dense than the astral plane. The sun and the 7 planets are etheric energies giving life to the physical world. The word astral has star within it because above the physical is the astral plane. You can't go to space in a spaceship, but you can go with your astral body. Even the Bible talks about astral projection, and the Egyptians definitely knew about this.
Oh, okay. So maybe it was always within us. Maybe we shouldn't be building machines to go to this place or this planet. Maybe we could just be astral projecting to anywhere in any point in space and time that we want because we're a photon. So that's that. I think that's a great breakdown of it as well.
I can also tell.
You know what I mean? That would be crazy. Helena Luna. Helena Luna. Okay, wait. Why is the quality so like mashed potatoes? Hold on. How is Trump still not here yet? Respectfully, bro. The Anunnaki. So the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, so I think this is an excerpt from a testimony of a pilot. Let's see.
They managed to get one pilot to come down and brief us. And what I will tell you is, I will say it, Representative Gates has gone on record. He actually did as soon as he left office, that we've seen stuff that I don't believe was created by mankind.
See, this is the problem that I have with all this stuff.
Is I should be able to tell you without losing my clearance.
Well, not just that. That people that have that information should give that information to the general public.
Correct.
And stop treating us like you're smarter than us and that you can handle it and we can't. That's silly.
Which is why we have to declassify, which is why...
You know the Hal Puthoff stuff?
No.
Oh, it's okay. Hal Puthoff, during the Bush administration, was assigned, he was one of many scientists, and this is also in the age of disclosure, he was one of many scientists that was assigned to put a numerical value to pros and cons of UFO disclosure. So they said to him, we have a crashed UFO that we have been back engineering, and we want to release information to society to let people know that UFOs are real and that there is something else out there that's not us, that's much more intelligent than we are. So they have this list of pros and cons: banking, religion, societal structure, you know, everything on one side. And then the pros, like, you know, whatever the positive aspects of it would be. And every single scientist said that the cons outweighed the pros. And he said, I would have loved to have had disclosure, but this was just what they asked me to do.
Interesting. I think that the general public would low-key freak the crust out, but not everyone. You know, that's a lot to handle for some people. I mean, even just like, you know, what is wrong with my... I hate when it does that, bro. I hate when it does that. My mic just cuts out randomly. I think, though, people will lose their mind even just based off of like protests and I want to say, like, I don't know. I just think people don't. I mean, maybe people can handle it. Maybe people can handle it. I feel like to some degree, though, it's kind of hard for people to like, or it's not that. What I think is, people would handle it like, or like they'd be like, see, I knew it. Like first, what would happen? Like all the conspiracy theories would be like, see, I knew it. I knew the government was hiding stuff from us. Da 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 da. And then other people would be like, some people would be scared. Some people would be like, yo, they're watching us. Da, da, da. And I mean, maybe people wouldn't freak out. I think we could handle it because I think everyone at this point has already been like, guys, you know, there's something up. You know, there's something up. There's something going on. It's not like if people were just like, we have solid evidence, and then they would be like, because I think it opens if they do, it opens the gateway for so many people to say, oh, the earth is flat now and the government's been lying and all this other stuff, which I don't know in particular if the government ever lied, but they have always kind of beat around the bush and haven't shown like complete transparency when it comes to that type of stuff, like the supernatural and stuff like that. And people are like, yo, this is a testimony to some of this stuff we're seeing is not real. Like you're seeing like aliens, brother. These beings are not from here. Whether you want to say they've just teleported through like astral projection or something, or quantum entanglement, these guys are not real. They're not part of us. There's something else. Can people handle that? Possibly. But it's I feel like it's only for those who have already been in this hemisphere. And I think it's going to confirm their like recency bias and confirmation bias, where it's, you know, their anecdotal evidence from some experience they've had, and then them going on like Twitter and all that stuff and seeing other people's testimony or other evidence of the government's been hiding this stuff, da 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 da, right? It's just gonna be like, see, I knew it, I'm the smartest, we are so da 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 da. It's just gonna be one of those things, you know. Everyone's gonna be, they're gonna be like, I knew it, we were right, but it doesn't really matter because they're gonna have to go to work in the morning anyways and clock in. So, GG's. But it's still cool to think about.
Imagine a world in which if Enoch was left in the Bible and people were like, wait, what happened? Like, explain the nuttiness of the Book of Enoch to people.
Well, it's okay. So if you read it, it talks about the fall of angels, thus creating really the precursor of civilization that led to the first flood. I think that when you even go into potentially the technology that was given to mankind by these angels, it talks about the hidden beliefs and theories in astronomy, etc., metalworkings, all of it. But it really does explain, you were talking about earlier how you have a lot of these religions around the world that kind of say the same thing. This is kind of the OG text that leads to those stories that we're hearing from many religions around the world. To talk about angels mixing with mankind and then seeding a super essentially race of humans that essentially were responsible for basically damning mankind to the flood. I mean, you hear about stuff in Greek and Roman mythology, people who had these super crazy powers, and you talk about it out loud and it sounds crazy, but that's what the book says. And then the fact that it was taken out and then it's poo-pooed, yet you have one of the oldest religions in the world via the Ethiopians that actually still have it. You have, the Catholic Church that has books that are missing out of the King James Version. I'm just saying that, when you read it, you should read it and decide for yourself. Don't listen to what I'm saying, don't listen to what you're saying, but truly give it a chance and see what you have to say. And then, you're going back to this whole concept of if you have this information pertaining to UAPs, whatever they might be, the origins. I mean, if you have a understanding of what Enoch was talking about, kind of makes sense.
Interesting. Okay. So the Book of Enoch. I always see I always see Billy Carson talking about stuff like that. And I don't know too much about that, but I know the Anunnaki, Sumerian tablets, Emerald tablets, all that stuff. I don't really know much about it, but I kind of know they exist at least. But who knows, I think I do think that the ancient civilizations definitely knew stuff, right? Because think about it, okay? We're sitting here wondering why are these pyramids so significant, right? But also, if you had nothing to do all day, right? They didn't have they weren't doom scrolling. Okay. See, we have problem. We can't come to that recollection because we're doom scrolling. We're watching shows. We're doing stuff that really doesn't matter. They had nothing to do all day for centuries. Centuries, they have nothing to do all day besides build stuff, hunt, fight, learn their body, their mind, learn about physics and stuff. Oh, it looks like the president's coming here soon. Okay. But what I want to say is you have so much time, right? You can probably figure out a lot of things, right? You can probably figure out about your body, your autonomy, things that are evidently supernatural to the rest of the world, but to you is kind of second nature because, they were probably humming. It probably started, some random kid started humming, right? And then a leaf started floating or something, right? And then they all started humming together. And just the harmonious nature ended up, the sacred resonance started coming together through fruition, and then people started saying, wait, our physical bodies or our mental capacity can change the world around us physically. So maybe if we keep trying to tap in and, maybe when they go to sleep, because, we have fluoride and stuff in our water and all this poison and then all these bad things. So we kind of have the defects of all that stuff. But I think that the president, I was about to say the president, because he's about to come here soon. But I think that us as humans, us experimenting and wanting to know more just because we're just that curious by nature, which is why we have our entire society today compared to back in the day, because they think oh, if you are something, then you're an idiot or you're stupid. But everybody knows, right? If you're not confirmation biasing, God made or I'm not gonna say God, but God, but humans were evolved to be what they are. You can go off of archaeologists. Wait, what is the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Archaeologists backgrounds or history, right? And so the history is some people believe that humans were made or genetically imprinted. That's what I'm trying to get at. And then or in some other fact, humans are just evolved, right? The normal one is you were a tadpole, then you went from fish to that, and then they started walking on land, and it became a monkey, then it became this, right? And then you're human, right? And that's kind of the scientific backing, right? Because there's other evidence that kind of supports that. But when we get to other civilizations. Some of them were obviously African or Mongolian or etc. You know, these guys were possibly doing things that we don't know of, and I'm talking about the like slowly evolved forms of those people, right? Because you know, those are older creators. So let's say, you know, we get to when they built the pyramids. Sorry, I'm thinking so we get to the pyramids were possibly built from, you know, them being actually smart compared to us, because, you know, everybody thinks we're like this smart, the smartest people are the people who control the dumbest people, and then they've done things to make the dumbest people even more dumb as they possibly can. But back then that wasn't a system. Everyone kind of had the same stuff. They were eating natural foods, natural ingredients, natural environments, natural things, like the universe evolved them to be, which is why they probably were way smarter in terms of being able to lift huge stones, huge cobblestones, huge plains of stuff. Okay, I was just thinking, is it possible that they built them by like using a net string and then pulling them? But maybe not. So yeah. Now it looks like the president's going to be here anytime soon. Looks like they're preparing stuff, but maybe that stuff is true. Maybe it's not. I obviously can't, you know, say yes or no, but there's a possibility, a huge one, I believe.
But based on our investigations and stuff that we've seen, okay, there is definitely something that I think would rival what we know currently with physics, and a tech that potentially is out there that we don't have the ability to reproduce, because it would basically be like dropping a cell phone.
Wait, oh, did you
conversations is that there have been incidences that I believe.
Oh, we already seen that. So for me, I do believe that there is something out there. I think there's just too many of us for it to be like, yep, that's it. It's only humans. Only humans. It's like, I mean, come on. That can't be true. It can't just only be us. It's really changing the way we understand origin life.
Now with our investigation and the task force that I run, actually the reason why the task force was formed was because of an event that happened at Eglin Air Force Base, where both myself, Representative Matt Gaetz, and Representative Tim Burchett actually had responded and gone to investigate multiple Air Force pilots that had come forward in regards to UAP incidences that had occurred, and they were alleging that the Air Force was covering it up.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was that. And like, I'm happy to go into detail on that one. But what I will tell you is the stuff that I saw at Eglin, how the military responded, me being, you know, a former service member, and then ultimately what I saw with the pushback of the military not even wanting to share with Congress information, which is a big problem, because when you have Congress that's supposed to be the advocate and voice for the American people, the oversight body, and you're being denied access, not just from a base commander, but high level up at the Pentagon, even Secretary of Defense, it's a problem.
Do you think that it's possible that these are U.S. vehicles that are top secret?
I definitely think that there's a level of advanced technology that the U.S. government has. And I think that tech can be housed within the defense contractor realm. And of course, some information is going to be classified. But I can also tell you, and this might sound crazy, but based on our investigations and stuff that we've seen, okay, there is definitely something that I think would rival what we know currently with physics, and a tech that potentially is out there that we don't have the ability to reproduce, because it would basically be like dropping a cell phone right off back during the time of maybe caveman. So like, we just don't have the tech to develop it yet. What I can also tell you is, based on our interviews, and this has been something that you can go back and watch with the congressional hearings, but I was actually able to ask some of the witnesses, you know, what are these things? And they keep saying interdimensional. And then when you talk about the interdimensional aspect of, you know, are these things pre-existing, maybe outside of what we currently know as our own dimension? That stuff can kind of all sound crazy, but at the end of the day, you know, my job as an investigator is to receive all the information, decipher it, and then ultimately, from a congressional aspect, if you do have contractors that are withholding information or operating outside of the purview of the federal government, I mean, there's budgetary issues, but there's definitely something that I can tell you with confidence that exists that we don't know how to explain currently.
So when you say that it operates outside our understanding of physics, what specifically are you saying? Like, what happened?
To I guess break it down in simple terms is that I think that some of the tech that exists, that whatever these things have, these energy things have,
Energy things? What do you mean?
Well, they call them interdimensional beings. I think that they can actually operate through the time spaces that we currently have. And that's not something that I came up with on my own. That's based on stuff that we've seen. That's based on information that we've been told. And then also, too, I think that there's this historical aspect of, this gets into the deeper theories and concepts of religion. And I think the history that we currently know. And that kind of spins off into another topic of, you have the modern day Bible. You have this aspect of Bibles or books of the Bible that have been removed that explain and kind of touch on these topics. And I think that we're in a time and age where you have such a vast amount of information that we have access to via social media, via your cell phone, via the internet. And so it's really changing the way that we understand, the origins of life and the spiritual reality that we know.
When you
currently.
say interdimensional beings, that they know that these are interdimensional beings, how do they know that?
Based on testimony, would be based on witnesses that have come forward. But what I can tell you is
So the witnesses just were told that they were interdimensional?
that they've seen things. And what I can tell you without getting into classified conversations is that there have been incidences that I believe where very credible people have reported that there have been movement outside of time and space.
That's very vague.
Yeah. So, look.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Look, have I seen a portal open? No. Have I seen a spaceship? Personally, no. Have I seen evidence of this? Yes. Have I seen photo documentation of aircraft that I believe were not made by mankind? Yes. Is there historical significance to this? Yes. Is there multiple events that go back to, I would argue, maybe even before the time of Christ that have documented this in text? Yes. So do I believe that the government has access to certain technology? Yes, to an extent. And I believe that certain contractors potentially have back engineered this tech. I think that that's what can explain the advancements that we're seeing.
Okay. That's what I wanted to see, was the full clip of her confirming or not whether or not she's seen actual empirical evidence of practical alien tech